Jeff Kessler is one of the Democrats running for the party's nomination for U.S. Senate. Kessler, a longtime West Virginia lawmaker, was the former state Senate leader and is now running for U.S. Senate, and he joins us on Metro News Talkline. Jeff, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and how are you today?
Doing great. Glad you could be with us. Why, after taking a little hiatus from elected office, do you want to get in this again and this time run for U.S. Senate?
Well, after I ran for governor and wasn't successful in 2016, I came home, was perfectly happy, just taking care of my 4 kids. I got 4 boys, ages 11 through 35, and practicing law, taking care of my clients day by day, whatever, and client by client, taking care of problems and people's issues in the community. And, what I saw happening in Washington and in government today, sort of like Thomas Paine, now are the times that try men's souls and women's souls. What I saw happening with government is just not working, particularly at the federal level. There's so much divisiveness, things of that nature. But the biggest thing that probably was the impetus for me jumping into the political arena again is, I just was absolutely appalled at the vote that Senator Capito made for the big, beautiful bill, they call it. I call it the big, ugly bill. You may not know, but back in 2012, when I was president of the Senate, I was very instrumental in getting the Medicaid expansion passed in West Virginia. As you know, the ACA had been passed. It was called Obamacare. Obama wasn't very popular. He had gotten beat in the primary, in fact, by a prisoner from West Virginia who was confined in Texas, but got more votes than Obama. With the war on coal mantra and things of that nature, wasn't popular. So I recall Governor Tomlin had been just sworn in. He introduced bills that would, as every governor does in the state, that he wanted to get passed, and asked for a meeting with me. And we went through them, and I said, Governor, those all look pretty good. And he said, what do you want from me, Jeff? I said, Governor, I want you to commit to doing Medicaid expansion in the state. And he thought about it. And I said, he said, why, Jeff? Obamacare is not popular. And we had a frank discussion about it. I said, Governor, it will, at the federal government expense, paying 100% of it, I think, for the first 5 years, will provide health insurance to tens, if not hundreds of thousands of West Virginians for the first time. Today, over 600,000 West Virginians, a third of our population, are covered by Medicaid. Well, 522. 4 out of 5 people in our nursing homes are paid for by Medicaid. Half the childbirth, half the children. And yet, despite those facts, Shelley voted to pass the big, beautiful bill that's going to cause $11 trillion across the country and $1 billion worth of funding for those benefits, health care benefits in West Virginia. So, I will vote to represent the people of my state. I thought, if she's going to turn her back on a third of our population for a bill that's going to benefit basically a bunch of out-of-state billionaires with huge permanent tax breaks, you don't deserve to represent us anymore. And that doesn't even count the SNAP benefits that you're looking at, the taking food out of hungry mothers and children's mouths. If you're not going to represent the people and take care of the people that you represent, it's time for you to go.
Let me jump in here on this. Let me jump in. We're $39 trillion in debt. How would you pay for the subsidies and these other programs when we have Social Security, Medicare we have to pay for, defense? How do you balance it all?
Well, we seem to find money for everything else. It's costing $1 billion a day to be over in, Iran on the war that Congress, by the way, never authorized. We find money for everything else. There's tax breaks to a bunch of billionaires, particularly a billionaire tax, that Elon Musk, you probably pay more in taxes than Donald Trump and also Elon Musk and, the super, super wealthy. There can be a passive tax on some of those particularly earnings, market earnings that folks are making by buying up companies, selling them, things of that nature that can do it. Now, what this trickle-down economics, giving tax breaks at the top, hasn't worked since both of the Trump administrations has led to a significant increase in, as you know, in the national debt of this country. They were going down under Democrats, under both Obama and under President Clinton. You saw reductions and they not necessarily under Biden because of the COVID. But I'll tell you, the policies of trickle down economics does not work. I believe in building our economy from the bottom and the middle up, not from the top down. Trickle down economics hasn't worked. Somebody show me it has, and I'll be open to debate and be open to those suggestions. But they have not worked.
Talking to Jeff Kessler, Democrat running for U.S. Senate here in West Virginia. May 12th is the primary election. Would you support the War Powers Act?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution provides that only the Congress has the power to declare war. It's been bypassed. I know it's got beat yesterday in the House by one vote, and I know Senator Capito's voted against it every single time. And that's another thing that troubles me about her time in office. I mean, I think she has abdicated her role of the legislative branch of Congress of being a co-equal branch of government. Whatever comes down from the executive, she rolls over and does, even when it hurts West Virginia. And it's not only there. They passed a bill, the Epstein files, release those, December 15th or whatever, comes and goes, and still they haven't been fully released. Passed by Congress, ignored by the executive. War Powers Act. We don't need your power. We're just going to do it. We don't need authorization. I could go on and on and on. It's just they've ceded their power as a Congress. And that's why Congress, if you note, has probably the lowest popularity in our nation's history. I think 10 or 15, maybe % of the people have trust and belief in Congress. And that's why they're not doing their job. It's all about three things, the three Ps, I'll call them: power, politics, and punishment. Just punish the other side. When I was in the presidency of the Senate, lieutenant governor, and standing up there with the gavel and presiding over the Senate, I worked with the other side. If you look at the history, you'll see that 99 probably % of the bills that we passed during my tenure in office was 34-0, unanimously. You know why? I reached out to the other side. We had debate. I'd call in the minority leader and say, we're going to run this bill. What's your thoughts, Mike? Mike Hall was the minority leader at the time, so we don't like that one provision. And I said, well, take it out. We'll run that bill separately. Okay, we passed the bill. We'll run the other bills separately. You've got to have dialogue and collegiality and compromise and make changes sometimes incrementally. But the guiding star of it's got to be good, sound public policy that benefits the people of my state, period.
Jeff, do you believe in term limits? Would you commit
Absolutely.
to only spending a certain amount of time in the Senate? So what should that be? 1 term, 2 term? What should the limit be then?
Oh, elections are term limits too. People do have a right to. I'm more concerned, not necessarily term limits. I'm more concerned about the role that big money plays in politics. Government is the best government money can buy. People are spending tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of millions, not billions of dollars, millions of dollars to get elected to a seat that pays $170,000 or whatever. It's just ludicrous. You got all this outside money. Citizens United, in my view, was the downfall of our free election system, because it let everybody and his brother spend an enormous amount of money, particularly out of state. Heck, it could even be foreign governments intervening in our elections to elect leaders that become puppets of them. I'm told a lot of the members in Congress will go back to the call rooms and spend several hours a day just calling, begging for money. They ought to be meeting with constituents they represent. That's what I'll pledge to do.
Jeff, got about 30 seconds here. Why should Democrats support you on primary election day, May 12th?
Because I can win, number one, and number two, I've served at both the municipal, county, and state levels. I have got things done. I get policies done that take care of the people of this state. And as the United States Senator, I will do the same. If it doesn't help the people I represent, I ain't voting for it. Not party, not power, not influence, not special interest. I will be controlled by one sole guiding star, and if that helps the majority of the people of my state.
Jeff Kessler, Democrat, running for the party's nomination for U.S. Senate. Again, the primary election is May 12th. Early voting starts April 29th and Tuesday, April 21st. Your last day to either register to vote or update your voter registration status. Jeff, thanks so much for the time this morning. We really appreciate it.
Have a great weekend.
You as well.